Great things happening in New York City public schools, but a lot of crazy things and a lot of very frustrating things. One issue is teachers have been working without a contract for about 7 years, and inside those contracts you will find some pretty weird items.
So that's why we brought with us today Campbell Brown, award-winning journalist. She's also the founder of a non-profit watchdog group called Parents Transparency Project. Nice to have you back on Good Day New York, Campbell.
Good to see you guys.
So I read your op-ed page, and as a parent I was kind of mystified by some of the things that are in the teacher's contract.
Well, I think most people don't even know it's in there. And we don't put any attention on it. Parents aren't really engaged in the conversation around this as these contract negotiations are taking place. It's a critical moment because this new mayor is sitting down with them and making these decisions that are going to have lasting impact for years to come and really have an effect on whether or not we improve education for 1.1 million kids.
We would hope that a contract is pretty cut and dried. Hours worked, pay, vacation, that kind of thing. But there are kind of some arcane items in there that don't seem to be helping anybody. Perhaps maybe a union or two. Summarize that for us, please.
So, I mean, you can't even imagine this is true, but a teacher cannot show up for work for 20 days, not call in for any reason or say why they're not there, and face no penalty for that whatsoever.
So is it a sick day or a personal day?
No, they just don't have to show. I mean, they don't have to call in if they don't show up.
So is this on top of like holidays, vacations, school recess?
This is written into the contract. I mean, simple
They
things
don't have to even call in and say, well, I'm not coming in today?
No.
So what happened? Because I know people abuse that, right?
They have in the past, but that's like, to me, that's a basic common sense change. Most teachers are not abusing a rule like that, but why is it even in the contract to begin with?
That is bizarre. Again, 20, okay, give us another one, please.
So a typical parent-teacher conference in a public school often only lasts 2 to 3 minutes. A friend of mine got a notice from his school saying your parent-teacher conference is going to be 4 minutes, so come with your questions ready, and don't complain about it, because often these conferences are 2 to 3 minutes, but that's mandated in the contract how much time that teachers can spend with parents in these conferences overall. And it prevents teachers who want to engage with parents from engaging with them.
What about emailing parents if there's a problem?
That should be in this new contract. Parents should be able to reach out, email, call the teachers directly and expect a timely response if they think something's going on with their kid. Right now, a teacher is not required to engage with parents outside of the school day ever. So if you're a working mom or working dad, when are you going to talk to your teacher about what's going on with your kid?
Is there any momentum that you sense, because they're going to go back at this pretty soon, that they will chuck some of the more ridiculous components of previous contracts out?
It hasn't been discussed. All that has been sort of reported around these negotiations is around money. And look, we have put in this website that we did, the commonsensecontract.com, some important financial incentives for teachers too. I mean, I think a starting salary for a teacher should be higher than $5,000 a year. It should be closer to $60,000, given the importance of the job and the expense of the city they live in. But some of these basic work rules have to be discussed, and we've got to get that out in the public and get parents engaged on it.
Also on your website, you talk about that the contract should allow schools to protect their best teachers.
Yeah, and these are issues that we've talked about in the past on this show. Something that is absolutely crazy, which is that a teacher can be found guilty of sexually harassing a child, and if an unelected arbitrator decides that that teacher should not be removed, there's nothing the chancellor can do about it.
Now, has that happened? I'm trying to think of the circumstances where somebody who was guilty of sexually harassing a student would somehow not be removed.
We have teachers on the payroll. We have, in some cases, in the classroom, who most in the absent teacher reserve currently, who have been found guilty. So this is not there was a question of he said, she said. This is an arbitrator found them guilty, and they're still on the payroll, and in some cases still in the classroom.
And Campbell, the vast majority of teachers never have to tap into these bizarre kind of components of the contract. They're not abusing the system. They don't want to. They'll probably be surprised that this stuff is in there.
No, I think most teachers would say, what we do should be defined in a very simple 2 to 3 page contract, not hundreds of pages of complicated work rules that make no sense. sense and aren't applicable to anybody.
What you put on your website makes perfect sense, but how does the UFT feel about that? Especially, I mean, they were the ones touting that parents should be more involved in their kids' education, right?
So historically, they have not supported changes to work rules. I think nothing in here is controversial or radical. It's all pretty obvious stuff. So I hope that they would be supportive of it. But at the end of the day, this is really up to the mayor. And if they're not, he has a choice to make, to stand with a political constituency or fight for New York City's kids.
Do we have any idea which way he's standing right now?
This has been happening behind closed doors, and there's nothing I would love more as a former journalist, and I'm sure you would too, of having this happen much more in public, the debate around this, and having more people engaged instead of secret negotiations. So unfortunately, I think we're going to find out when we find out, as opposed to having a real debate.
And she is Campbell Brown, that Campbell Brown from NBC News, from CNN. She's interviewed presidents, heads of state, traveled the world. So great that you're involved in this new group. It's called, once again, give it to me, Parents Transparency Project.
And the website is commonsensecontract.com, where everything's sort of detailed.
Are you asking parents to get involved and to write?
There's a petition there, but more than anything, this is about just educating people so that they can be part of the conversation and be aware of some of the stuff that we haven't been talking about.
Thank you. Campbell Brown.
Thank you.
So
Makes perfect sense to me, Campbell.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so once again, they opened the World's Fair to everybody yesterday.